that are prescribed for life. We have a mental health crisis, and
Do they work?
No. They don't. Maybe I'm on a couple of them, and
I would not have.
they don't.
I would not have.
I'm not gonna wait. Like I said, I figured I'd be next, but no, it isn't definitely an issue for women.
But, Mr. President, what you and Secretary Kennedy unlocked is for the first time questioning this system, that where we spend 3 times more per capita than any other country in the world, and we are living 6, 7 years less. We have the highest rates of suicide and depression in the developed world. The incentives of our system.
And by the way, autism, which we're really working hard on, right, Bob?
We have the highest rates.
And we're coming up with some pretty amazing findings.
Pediatric cancer is the highest rates in the world. We are struggling and paying more than any other country, and the power of this executive order is really representative and gives validation to the cries of Maha moms and the votes of Maha moms, because for the first time it's taking a therapy that's one time. This is a one time, not a lifetime drug that can change someone's life, and that's the power, and I think that's why the system.
So the antidepressants, all that we read about and we prescribe to our military, they're not very effective?
It's a lifetime drug, and
Well, even if it's lifetime, but do they?
look at what's happened as we've prescribed them and made made them one of the most prescribed.
Well, the
classes.
numbers are not great.
This
Perhaps
is
I could jump in from the scientific side.
Thank you, Mr. President. What's the timeline
Hold on,
for those with
Shiz wanted
mental
to say
health?
something?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry.
I think what's really important about your order is you include, we really want to understand why these rapid-acting treatments work. We need that for every treatment in mental health illnesses. Standard antidepressants in research, they do work for some people, but certainly not everyone. And if we think of cancer, all other conditions, we have a test to know which treatment
Right, that's right.
is needed, and we don't have that for mental illness. It's guesswork.
This is
So
tough. With that, it either works or it doesn't work, and you have the
Right.
result.
And so
With this, you don't
as
know.
part of this order, I think it's really important that we're able to have the investment to understand who does this work for, and the test to accompany that. So thank you for
Do
making that
you think this
possible.
could be a big step above antidepressants, what we're doing?
I think it can be identifying who doesn't respond to an antidepressant straight away, rather than waiting for years. And
What
being
percentage
able
of people respond positively to antidepressants? How
20
much?
to 30%.
That's not great.
No.
That's not great. Well, thank you very much. Good question.
Mr. President, what's the timeline for those with mental health disorders, substance abuse disorders, to readily take advantage of this treatment based upon the executive order that you're signing today?
So I'd like to ask maybe Marty that question.
Sure. So first of all, right now it's available on clinical trials. We have not had applications in-house at the FDA. There was one that came in under the Biden administration. It was kicked out and not accepted. We now have 3 applications that are imminent, and we'll be issuing vouchers next week. The fastest FDA approval was 42 days during the HIV epidemic. On our national priority voucher program under President Trump, we are now down to that time frame on a routine basis instead of a year. In my opinion, we need the same level of urgency we had with HIV for PTSD and depression and anxiety and our mental health disorder and cancer and heart disease and so many other conditions. So you're going to see decisions out from the FDA later this summer as soon as we get the applications.
That's great. That's great.
And Mr. President,
I like that answer. I really like that answer. to be
thank you,
honest.
Mr.
Go
President.
ahead.
And then in regards to the timing of the executive order, was there not enough known about this treatment a year ago, or 5 years ago, or 8 years ago to sign the executive order that you signed?
So do you want to answer that question? Go ahead.
I just
please.
add, in 2016, the lead professor at Johns Hopkins said this was the most promising therapy that he's seen in his career, and many doctors from leading institutions said that. There's been a hold, there's been incentives.
It's fantastic. Thank you very much for being here. As well as FDA Commissioner Marty McCary, CMS Administrator Dr. Mehmet Oz, NIH Director Dr. Jay Bhattacharya. See how easy that name is? You know, it used to give me a little trouble. That was a tough name. Congressman Morgan Luttrell, who's a friend of mine and he's a real war hero. He knows something that a lot of us will never find out about. retired U.S. Navy SEAL, Marcus Luttrell, the two of them. I don't know what's in your blood, fellas. You guys are good mom and dad.
My
Good?
mom and dad.
Yeah, good somebody. Good to have you. Joe Rogan is a fantastic person. We did a little interview before the election. We had over 300 million people. And I said, oh man, I hope Kamala doesn't do it. And she didn't. He wanted her to do it, but she didn't. Someday Joe's going to explain why. I could tell you why. But along with many other, because she didn't want to, with many other veterans. And I just want to thank the people behind me are outstanding. It's an amazing group. The executive order I'm signing, we're actually signing the executive order today, is really a moment. It directs the FDA to expedite their review of certain psychedelics already designated as breakthrough therapy drugs. They're very much being discussed. It's one of the hottest things I think you're talking about, Oz, right? It's nothing. If these turn out to be as good as people are saying, it's going to have a tremendous impact on this country and other countries too. These treatments are currently in the advanced stages of clinical trials to ensure that they're both safe and effective for the American patients. And the nice part is we're actually doing this early, but it has been going on. Research has been going on for quite some time. But you know, usually with things like this, nothing ever happens, no matter how the research ends up. But we're changing that. This order will clear away unnecessary bureaucratic hurdles, improve data sharing among the FDA and the Department of Veterans Affairs, and facilitate fast rescheduling of any psychedelic drugs that become FDA approved. And we think many of them will go very quickly. And I have to say the most favored nations pricing that I established, has been knocking the cost of drugs down by 50, 60, 70, 80%. And I also want to thank you and Bobby for the great job you've done. It's incredible. The press refuses to write about it. I think it's probably as big as what we're talking about today. The drug costs are going down and by the way, Trump RX, which is the way you go to get your very low cost drugs. But when you think in my first term, for 28 years, drug prices went up, and I got it down 1/4 or 1/8%. I was so proud of myself. It's the only one that in 28 years got them down. And I had a news conference to explain how great I was. I said, I'm the greatest there ever was. I got it down 1/8%. Okay? I was very proud because it only went up. For 28 years, it went up. Now I got it down a little bit. And now I got it down 50%, 60%, 70% with these guys. So now I am, you know. But nobody wants to write about it. But it doesn't matter because the people have found out and they're getting, you know, we were the highest in the world by far. Sometimes would be 10 times higher than other countries. You'd buy a drug, I call it the fat pill or the fat drug. You'd buy it in London, you'd buy it for $10 for a pill, let's say, or a pill generally, but actually to be specific, London, $87, New York, $1,300. I said, how can that be possible? How can it be possible? $87. And actually a friend of mine called me up and he said, you know, he's a very rich guy. And he happens to be on this Ozempic, I guess, at the time, and it was not working, by the way. The guy was extremely successful, but highly neurotic, got a lot of problems. I will not mention his name. He's begging me not to mention it because he's become quite famous. He's a big factor here, but he's very smart, very rich guy, very, very successful guy. And he said, "Hey, President," he used to call me Donnie. Now he calls me President, sign of respect. He said, I'm in London. I bought this stuff for $87. In New York, I pay $1,300. What's going on? I said, well, that's the way it is. We pay the highest prices in the world. And it sort of hit me that how ridiculous it is. Made, by the way, he checked it. He had a whole big research done on it because he couldn't believe it. Made in the same factory, same plant, everything was the same except the price. And now we are the lowest price. We are tied. In other words, whatever the lowest price in the world is, that's the price we pay. That's a tremendous difference. So we'll be paying, they go up a little bit. So the 87 will go like to 120 and we'll go down from 1,300 to 120. So we'll have these massive price cuts and they've already started. And I think it's one of the biggest things, but unfortunately the press doesn't like to talk about it. But because if I were a Democrat, it would be headlines all over the place. But so I do that. That's why I like live television, actually. It's great because you can't do any cutting. But we're so honored by that, and that's going to have a huge impact on this also, because the pricing, not only is it important, but the pricing is going good. And you're going to get the rescheduling done, right, please? So will you get the rescheduling done, please? You know, they're slow walking me on rescheduling. Okay, you're going to get it done, right? In 2024 study from Stanford University, 30 special operation veterans with traumatic brain injuries underwent, it's called ibogaine treatment, ibogaine